And we can start. Okay, well, I guess we're recording. It says we're recording. So, all right. It has been a long time since I have podcasted. I've pretty much taken the entire summer off. I have said, like with thinking I need to get James back on. Like we got to get back in the groove here, especially the last week or so. And then it always like Thursday rolls around, and I haven't said anything to him. So I'm like, I'll do it next week. And then it just same deal. So it's routine. But I don't have James this week. I do have my good buddy Steven again, who has kindly joined me. I think you might have been on the last podcast I uploaded.
Could have been. Was that a baseball one or like
It was no, it might have been my friend Ryan from grad school, because that was the draft. Or no, it was hockey.
Yeah. Hockey. Yeah, it's Stanley Cup. Yeah.
But the draft was going on. Yeah. That's what it was. But you were the previous one before that.
Gotcha.
That was preseason baseball. Speaking of baseball, trade deadline just happened. What? No, not 11 days anymore, because it's what, August 2nd now?
Yeah, it was August 2nd this year. I guess the 31st was on a Sunday, so they pushed it back.
That was part of the new CBA, was they pushed it back.
That could be it too. I honestly don't know. I just figured it was because it was on a Sunday.
Okay. That felt like one of the busiest trade deadlines I've seen, definitely involving like some of the big names out there.
Yeah, it was big in terms of like a lot of, like you said, all-stars. It's a perennial, like big names were moved.
Juan Soto was moved.
Juan Soto was moved. Luis Castillo was kind of the first from your Cincinnati Reds, was kind of the first big domino to fall. But yeah, there was a lot. I mean, there was some, Juan Soto was obviously the headliner, but it was a crazy couple of days because, Juan Soto probably 2.5, 3 weeks before the deadline, right around, I guess it was like the day before the home run derby, if I remember right.
Something like that. He said he wanted out, or there was a report though.
Rejected a contract extension, like an extension offer or something. And I mean, we won't talk about this for nearly long enough today, but like he rejected a 15-year, $440 million contract extension.
Yeah. Because
he's going to get that and probably more.
I was going to say, like, he said in interviews, I want to stay in Washington. Or I was like, dude, you just turned down $400 million. If you wanted to stay in Washington, you would have taken that contract.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy. So obviously I had a bit of a vested interest in the Juan Soto stuff because the Cardinals were linked to him. The Cardinals were the front runners, the favorites for so long. And it ended up not necessarily being because, there had been talks or there had been stuff. It was literally because we have the most talent in the minor leagues that teams would want or something like that. I'm not convinced that there was ever any talks ever happened at all.
It may have. I would give you a phone call.
Yeah. Hey, what'll it take?
An inquiry.
Yeah. Something. Yeah. But I mean, even outside of Soto, like I said, Castillo moving, Joey Gallo stinks, but he's a big name.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, does he stink? He's lighting it up with the Dodgers right now.
Maybe he needs to grow the beard back, get out of New York, get. I mean, it's just. But speaking of New York, I mean, like they got Frankie Montas. It's one of the.
It was a very busy deadline, and like
it was busy. Yeah,
a lot of big names were moved.
Right. Yeah, and so there's been other trade deadlines where it's been like nonstop, like middle tier, about low tier guys getting moved.
I feel like the most recent ones,
probably more.
But maybe, like you said, a medium kind of name, just kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe been more volume of trades, but definitely not to this, this caliber. I mean, the Juan Soto stuff, the trade leaks, and then Eric Hosmer is just like, maybe I don't want to
Yeah, that was the wild part. Was like it was almost done, like set.
Yeah.
And it was going to involve Hosmer, I believe, going to Washington, and he said, "No, I'm not.
I ain't going." Yeah, and who could blame him? I mean,
well, I don't. But I was like,
Yeah,
"Holy shit! Is
that.
he still going to San Diego? Or Soto? Is he still going to San Diego?" And they found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was crazy. It was definitely a, kind of lightning in a bottle because then toward the end of the deadline, you started hearing these things about like, are the Angels going to trade Shohei Ohtani? Like, what would it take? And then like
personally, we're getting off track here, but personally, if
Sure.
I were the Angels, I'd blow it all up. Get rid of Trout, get rid of Ohtani, get rid of anyone valuable, and start over.
I think they need a new owner and probably a new GM first, and then they may blow it up. But yeah, I mean, this isn't a baseball show, but there's a lot of things that the Angels need to do probably.
They don't really spend money. They try to, and they never really acquire top talent. Other than Ohtani, I would say they kind of lucked into.
Kind of, but not really. I mean, they spent $300 million on Albert Pujols.
Yeah,
they spent 300 or how much however much Rendon signed for. They spent that money on Rendon. They locked up Mike Trout for the largest contract in Major League history. For in terms of money, overall value. It's so. I don't quite understand their, like, let's get this flashy, big splash and then surround them with a bunch of scrubs.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
It doesn't make, like I said, this isn't a baseball show, but that none of what the Angels does make sense to me.
No, I know it's not. I didn't mention our topic. Our topic is not going to be baseball. It's actually going to be college football. But I had you on the show. You're a big baseball guy. I have not talked.
I was got to do a little bit of baseball. Yeah.
You got to do a little bit of baseball.
Just a little.
Division wise, I think it's pretty much what we expected.
Yeah.
There are a few where I whiffed. One is the Detroit Tigers. I thought Detroit would be a little bit more competitive.
The Central was one that we have both whiffed on.
Yeah.
Central. And the
East. I keep thinking like White Sox, plenty of time. They'll figure it out. It's almost middle of August.
Yeah. AL East is another one that we both have whiffed on. The Yankees are the best team in the league. I don't know.
No.
I don't see it lasting.
No.
I just don't see it. But
I said that on June 18th when they were 49-16.
I know you've been on this horse for a while, but
I just didn't buy it. I'm like, they do not have the arms. They don't have the kind of bats that it takes to keep this up.
Yeah, but
Steven, this collapse in July and August has been
music to your ears.
Has been perfect.
That's yeah.
Because the Yankees fans were insufferable through the first 65 games.
Oh yeah.
And now I don't even think they're on pace to win 100 anymore. They have fallen back to earth quite a bit.
They did. Sweep by the hands of the St. Louis Cardinals last weekend.
They've got swept by the Cardinals, and I think there was another series, but then they lost it they just lost the series to the Seattle this week. Maybe it was the Cardinals over the weekend. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was the Cardinals last weekend. Yeah. So you just hate to see it. I mean, it's just see it.
Now, I will say this: they're probably not. I would imagine they're going to figure out at some point and play better.
Yeah, the thing is, they're like 15 games up in their division.
And I do think that they're going to win their division. They're
like the rest of the East has woefully the teams that we thought in the East that were gonna contend have woefully underperformed, and the Baltimore Orioles are the best story in baseball, and they're going to make the playoffs, and I'm going to love every second.
Currently, at least as of last night, I don't know about tonight, but they were tied for that last wild card.
They're in the playoffs currently, and I freaking love it.
I do too. Awesome. I mean, I love Baltimore. Like the Orioles, I don't know why, just always a team I liked. And they have one of the best young rosters in baseball right now. And on top of that, a really deep farm system.
Yeah.
And I've already seen reports that watch for them to be big spenders in the offseason.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool with the Nats going in the opposite direction. Yeah, that'd be awesome for them to just say, you know what, let's rally the Beltway. Let's get these folks. Let's get back to the early 2010s when they were in the playoffs and Camden was
team,
rocking.
man. They had a good team. Those Baltimore teams that had like Adam Jones and
Adam Jones and Nelly Cruz.
who else was on that? Yeah, Nelson Cruz was on that team.
Chris Davis back when he wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
You know, JJ Hardy.
There was someone else. Was it Nick Markakis?
Nick Markakis was on those teams. He was playing right. Yeah, I mean they had a bunch of, or he was playing left, I think, because Cruz was playing right.
Oh, Machado, that was the other one.
Machado, and then my favorite like random baseball player from like our like childhood, early teen years, like moving up to high school, Delman Young. I loved that guy for no reason whatsoever.
Didn't he play first base for the Cardinals?
No, he never did. He played for a long time.
Maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
The Tigers. He played for a long time.
You're right. What wasn't there a Dimitri Young? Maybe.
I mean, there was a Dimitri.
Okay, Young. That's who I'm thinking of.
I want to say he took over for Cabrera in Florida. He played for the Marlins for a while. I know that. I don't know where else he played. He may have played for the O's for a minute, but I know he played for the Marlins. Dimitri, yeah, he had long hair.
Yeah, Dimitri is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's
love that one.
And then I'm pleasantly surprised that my Mets have been able to win this many games without DeGrom. Yeah, I mean, even Scherzer kind of on and off the.
Yeah, with DeGrom being down, had gotten really good performance from McGill and Bassett, and Edwin Diaz is the best closer in baseball right now. I mean, there's no two ways about it. He's the most dominant guy. He's got the best walk-up song. He's lighting the league on fire. So, and then you're getting the Mets have also gotten production from guys that they didn't have to get production from. So it's not just been Alonso and Lindor. It's been
McNeil
and
Marte.
Starling Marte, yeah. And like even guys that they were looking at trading, you know, I don't know, did they end up trading
they traded JD Davis.
JD Davis. What's that? Dom Smith. Did they end up trading Dom Smith?
I don't remember seeing his name pop up. I don't think so, but maybe.
Couldn't remember if they did or not. I know he was kind of in the talks to be traded.
It would make sense. I mean, he's behind Alonso at first base.
Right. So, I mean, it's been one of those years that everything kind of comes together, even with your ace being down.
No, still with the Mets.
So, I mean, yeah, and they've kind of benefited from the East being down too, a little bit. The Braves have picked it up lately, but underperformed the first half of the season with Acuna down. They've had some injury problems too. I think I don't know if we talked about this, but I kind of knew with Freddie Freeman gone that they were going to take a huge hit because of what he meant to that team and hitting second or third and playing goal at first base and being the face of the franchise and being, you know, the heir apparent, the heir to Chipper. I mean, like,
I think we still both picked them to win the division, though. I know.
Well, I'm sure we did, because even without Freeman, you overlook, you know, the guy who I always overlook is Austin Riley. He's having an MVP type season.
Just signed a big contract.
Just cashed in and signed that huge team friendly kind of deal too for his production, which the Braves are known to do.
I think my brother's right. That's the way to go. Get them to those. If you think they're going to be a huge deal, get them locked into those big contracts early that are kind of cheap.
Yeah, they did it with Acuna. They did it with Albies. Wouldn't surprise me if they try to do it with Dansby Swanson. You know, wouldn't surprise me if they try to do it with Max Fried. Those young guys, they've got kind of that core that they're building, around those really kind of those five guys. Maybe this Strider guy, this Strider kid, this rookie that's throwing the ball really well. You know, that kind of core they've got. They do it right. They do it, you know, they will trade and they will, you know, sign free agents, but they're building around a core that they've locked up and have done things, I think, the right way. So
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, we can dispense of the baseball talk now. I didn't want to spend too much time on it. But football season is right around the corner. And our topic today is going to be something that I have thought of really since last year, but especially in the last couple of weeks with USC and UCLA are announcing their move to the Big Ten, which I don't know about you. I wasn't really surprised.
Yeah, no, I wasn't either in terms.
I mean, it was surprising, but I was still like, yeah, I mean, yeah.
I think we can see what I think last time we talked about realignment.
It was Texas and Oklahoma.
And we were saying, well, what is the Big 12 going to do? We were singing the eulogy of the Big 12.
Yeah.
Script has kind of flipped a little bit. It looks like it's the Pac-12 that's going to be hurting. You know, they've lost probably their two tentpole organizations. I mean, you can make
there's not many in the Pac-12. I would argue two, and I really think UCLA is just kind of along for the ride on this one. Now, granted, they have value in other areas like baseball and basketball, and they've had success in football. But USC is driving this thing.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, they went to get USC and UCLA was down the road and saw they were meeting with them. So
you can't just have one. You got to add two, and it makes sense to lock up all of Los Angeles.
Yeah. So I mean, strategically, economically for the Big Ten, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. Really expands their brand really nationwide, like it needed to already. You know, they're big enough as it was, but
coast to coast now
really makes sense. They've gone coast to coast. So I mean, it's a, like I said, it's smart. I think it's smart for USC and UCLA too. You know,
I had a feeling this was coming.
I thought either the Big 12 or the Pac-12 was going to be kind of the ugly girl at the ball left out.
Well, this has happened before. Yes. It happened in the early 2000s. There were 6 Power 6 conferences, and then the ACC started to poach the Big East, and then it didn't phase the Big East out, but it went from being Miami, you know, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, Pitt, Syracuse, and all those other teams to just being Pitt, West Virginia, and Syracuse. Then the ACC came again and got Pitt and Syracuse, and then obviously West Virginia moves to the Big 12. Then that really became the end of the Big East. And now 10 years later, and I still don't think we're done, but one of these conferences that's not the Big 12, or I'm sorry, the Big 10 or the SEC is next. We thought it was going to be the Big 12. I'm not convinced it's not going to be the ACC. I think they're pretty safe though. They have the contract locked in for like another 14, 15.
Yeah, they've got the longest media rights right now, which is the only reason I think you're probably right in terms of maybe leagues that are in a vacuum, kind of vulnerable to poaching.
Right.
But if you get outside that vacuum, the ACC's locked. I mean, they're fine.
That's why I don't think it's going to be them, because their media rights extent, I think, is to 2036. Mm-hmm. If any school left now, it would be quite a buyout to try to get out. So I don't think it's going to be that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Like I said, we thought it was going to be the Big 12, but Big 12 stood firm and added, decent schools. BYU
added what was probably the best options for them at the time. And we'll talk about this, I'm sure, once we kind of get into our topic here. But like the 4 that the Big 12 added: Cincinnati, UCF, Houston,
BYU.
Yeah. So I knew it. I'm losing my
I
mind.
forget too. I always name like three.
I always try to, yeah, I always try to put Memphis in there. I don't know why. No, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, probably the four best options for them in terms of going outside of the group of five and bringing, or outside of the Power Five and bringing teams in, without talking about Notre Dame because they're their own thing. But the Big 12, like you said, stood firm, strengthened the best that they could, and didn't allow all these other teams and conferences, or didn't allow all these other conferences to come in and poach what was left. And now it looks like maybe the Pac-12 is going to be that.
And I'm still not convinced it's going anywhere. They've already talked about, there was a talk about a merger between the Pac-12 and the Big 12, and that went away. I'm still not convinced they're safe. I'm not convinced that they're fine either. But I think they're the ones now that are in trouble because at least the Big 12 could add teams. I don't know who the Pac-12 can add right now to try to save them.
Yeah, because you look at
and it doesn't have to be geography here.
No, it really doesn't. But the thing is, you look at teams in that realm. I mean, everybody that's in that stratosphere is locked in. There will be some shuffling. I know that. I understand that. Like there's going to be some shuffling. There's going to be a little.
I don't see them being able to steal a team from the ACC for reasons we just explained, or the Big 12, because the Big 12 is looking at the Pac-12 and be like, why would we get on one sinking ship to another?
Right.
And honestly, I think the Pac-12 is in much worse shape right now than the Big 12 is.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I think it's definitely shifted.
So it's going to be one of those three conferences. My money is on the Pac-12 right now, but that seems too obvious. But it's all what the media or what the networks want. And
unfortunately,
networks want the Pac-12 around. They're going to stick around. So that's why I don't think the Big 12 is completely out of the woods yet. But so we mentioned the topic without actually discussing what the topic is. So my brainchild the last couple of weeks has been, what if we had a college football Premier League that stretched coast to coast and included some of the best brands of college football? Because USC and even Texas and Oklahoma, but I think it's more prevalent with the USC and UCLA moves. They are the driving force of the Pac-12 media rights deals, TV contracts. They're not really paying for, Utah, Oregon, Washington, those schools have value. But like schools like Washington State, Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, Colorado, Arizona, they're more just another mouth to feed than they are moving the needle. And USC and UCLA are saying, we don't want to share this revenue. Right. And I firmly believe that attitude is going to continue with some of these other schools.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Big Ten is going to come and say one day, Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Penn State, hey, we're kind of sick of dealing with Illinois and Rutgers and Maryland and all these other, Northwestern, Indiana, Purdue. It's not as prevalent in the SEC, but still, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, LSU are going to be like, hey, why are we sharing revenue with Vanderbilt and Missouri and, some of these other schools? Yeah. So my idea was, what if they broke off? I don't think it's going to happen. If anything, I think the conferences are going to be like, hey, Vanderbilt, sorry. Or the schools will realize it and be like, look, we can't compete with this anymore.
Right.
So that's my idea, is let's pretend that they separate and create their own league. And it would be structured like what we see, especially with the Olympic sports. I don't think the conferences will be done away with. But what will happen is these schools, like Auburn, for instance, will be a member of this Premier League for football. But then in basketball, baseball, and the Olympic sports, whatever the schools and the conferences or the conference offers, will be an affiliate of the SEC, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So this is football only.
Yes, football only.
Since Premier League football only, breaking away from NCAA kind of conference, ish, kind of breaking away from conferences. But yeah, football only Premier League for college football. I'm ready. Let's.
So what we will do, Stephen, we have been promoted. Let's pretend that we have been promoted. We get to quit our jobs. We are now co-commissioners of this Premier League.
I'd like that, man.
Because as our friend Oscar Martinez would say, where would Catholicism be without the popes?
Without the popes.
So what I propose that we do, we are going to draft which teams are going to be accepted. Now, I believe the number we have chosen is 40, and honestly, I highly doubt it's ever going to get to that high.
No, yeah, I think we, we've been discussing this for a couple of weeks now, and I think 40 is the best number that we could come up with.
I chose 40 because it shows after about 24, it's kind of a drop off. And now I do think that there are schools that have value to get to that 40 and can bring some value to the table. But it's just not the same as the other schools. And at some point, as these tier 1 schools that we talked about, and at some point it becomes, we don't really want to share this with these other schools. So like I said, it's to demonstrate that it's still kind of a drop off, and the number is probably more likely going to be 24 or 32. But for shits and gigs, I went ahead and went to 40. I don't want to leave everybody out.
Yeah. I like it.
Have some fun with it.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
So, first order of business. As co-commissioners, we got to add the no-brainers. And I believe I think we had different numbers in terms of this first phase. I don't remember what yours was. Mine was 20.
Yeah, mine was 17.
Okay, but we were I think we were 17 for 17 with that.
I believe we were, yeah. I think you had the 3 extras in your no-brainer list, but all 17.
Yeah, mine was originally 22, and then 2 I taught myself out of. I still had them in, but they weren't part of the no-brainer. So let's go by conference. In the ACC, I'm counting Notre Dame as a member of this conference. So I have 4 schools, Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, and Clemson. I think those are the only 4. For those listening who are fans of schools that aren't among those 4, be patient. We're not done yet. So, what's that?
Not by a long shot.
Not by a long shot. All right. So I believe next would be the Big 12. Of the current Big 12, I guess I can add Texas and Oklahoma, but excluding Texas and Oklahoma, I don't see a school in the Big 12 that factors into the tier 1, including BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston.
Correct. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't see. There were some that were kind of further down our lists, and I should say this too. We are very similar, but we went about things.
I think in total, I texted it last night. I think we had 30 out of 40 between.
Yeah. So we'll disagree on some things, but I want to point at we went at this a little bit differently. So I think that's what's going to be interesting about kind of down the list is kind of how we looked at these things. But yeah, in the current Big 12, excluding Texas and Oklahoma, I didn't see anybody that was a no-brainer, had to be added.
Nope. So we go to the Big 10, and I believe my number was 6 if you include UCLA and USC. That is, hang on, I got a message pop up on my laptop. Meeting will end in 10 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Unless I upgrade to Zoom Pro.
Oh yeah, you gotta pay for it.
Oh, fuck that. Well, we're not wrapping this up in 10 minutes. I don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah. I mean, we could move it to.
Yeah, I guess let's just go to Skype.
Skype or FaceTime or something.
Shit. Well, now we got to start the whole meeting over. I mean, I guess we don't. I can still record. I can just do part 1, part 2. I just hate doing that.
Splice it together. Yeah.
But I'll just probably do that.
Okay.